I see tithing as acknowledging God as my source and not my resources as my source.
Okay.
So my salary is not my source.
Okay.
My businesses are not my source. And when I prioritize God over my finances, He takes care of me. So that's the principle that I live by. 90% with God in my life has stretched way further than the 100%.
Yeah.
And today, someone can come and say, but you can save this money, you can do whatever this money. But because I've lived and experienced God's provision and God's opening of doors into abundance.
Welcome to the In the Making, the podcast where young people can turn ideas into income, struggles into growth, and dreams into reality. So the objective of the podcast is to bring along young people that are trying to figure out life just like we are. And by doing so, we're going to have different guests in each episode that are going to be teaching us on how to basically try and figure out life. So I am your host, and this is your co-host. My name is Joshua, and
No,
we
you
have-
don't. My name is not important. Let's move.
okay,
Let's move.
he's not important. And we have our first ever guest, Fulufhelani, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
close enough. Yeah.
Close, eh?
Fulufhelani.
Oh,
Ferani.
Ferani.
Okay, that's close. I've heard worse. That's
Yeah.
definitely close. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
better.
What's your take on tithes? Because I heard something about tithes. So let's get into that because we have believers.
You want people
Yes.
to troll me?
No. It's like it's 10% for God, or is it for the pastor?
Okay, I think it's very interesting, right? Because the book of Malachi 3 speaks about bring tithe basically so that there may be food in my house. So basically, not necessarily the pastor, but for the house of the Lord, so that there may be food in the house. And then you also get a situation where I'm getting there. Your pastor is not working, right? And Paul speaks about he who gives you gifts of the Spirit. You need to honor him in a human way, basically. So if he's giving us food of the Spirit, then we give him food for him to eat, basically. And that's where you can't necessarily say now you can't give your pastor anything, especially where he's like full-time devoted to the church. So am I a believer? One, yes, I am a believer. Do I believe in the context, what is it? Not the topic, the principle of the tithe? I do believe in it. And I think what makes it easy for me, it's because the church that I'm a part of, when you are supporting the work of God, you can clearly see where the money is going. We've never had a situation where funds were redirected and the pastor got himself, a Bentley, whereas we didn't have a building or like expenses relating to the running of the church. Because if we're being honest, here in Joburg, you need rent, right? As a church, you need to pay electricity because you've got sound and all these things. Other times with some worship teams, because these are professional musicians, you need to pay them as well. So a church then becomes an institution with running expenses that have to be covered. And so me tithing, I see that as partnering up with the work that God is doing in the house of God. And so I do understand where people I do get where people's reservations are coming from, because we've been burnt, right? Where money was said to be raised for something and it was used for other things.
One thing I've learned, and I don't know, I apply it, I don't know about other people, is what do they say in Zulu? Ungangeni ebhasketini. So at the minute you put in that R2 or whatever that amount is, you should end there. Whether the pastor takes it or whether it doesn't work or whatever, it's none of your business.
Okay.
Because you made you committed into giving with your heart.
Yes.
So why should you care what
What
happens
happens
with the
to
money?
it? But I also feel like we need to also be careful in terms of, stewardship is important, right? The resources that God gives you as an individual, you are basically the steward over those resources.
Yeah.
So even when it comes to pastors, right, we cannot excuse if they are not using the money for what it was intended for. We can't excuse it. There has to be accountability, because these are people's resources that you are basically a steward over. And so yeah, ungangene basketini, I get it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that shouldn't be then used as an excuse to misuse the funds or the resources that are meant to contribute towards building the work of the Lord.
So how does tithing impact your life financially?
Okay, I actually did a video on this on my YouTube channel to say there is a covering, and I think for me, when I started working, let me go back to when I started working. When I started working, I grew up in a house where tithe is important. Like
Yeah.
you learn tithing from a young age, and even when you're getting like pocket money and whatever, you know that you have to tithe.
Serious?
So that's not yes.
Pocket money?
Pocket money, yes.
Okay, cool.
I mean, as a student, that's what you're getting, right?
Okay, cool,
But also,
yeah.
it becomes you need to tithe to give that to God. So it was something that was instilled in me in a very young age.
Yeah.
And when I started working, it became also when I was in varsity, the church that I was in, they would also encourage us to tithe from like even the student stipend that we were getting on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
So that's not a foreign practice or a foreign concept to me. And when I started working, it was a thing of, oh my God, where do I tithe? Like, do I tithe in Joburg? Do I tithe back home? Because where do I tithe, right?
Yeah.
And before I found a church, it was very difficult to like decide on, okay, do I tithe here? Do I tithe there? But
Okay.
because it's such a spiritual thing at the same time, then, you know, you have to, of course, pray about it and see where your convictions are. Because then
Yeah.
even people who tithe, we fight again in terms of, are you tithing on a gross salary? Are you tithing on a net
Yeah.
salary? And there are arguments around that. But at the end of the day, I'm like, this is a spiritual practice. It's your conviction that comes into play. And now back to your question around how I have seen tithing. So I see tithing as acknowledging God as my source and not my resources as my source.
Okay.
So my salary is not my source.
Okay.
My businesses are not my source.
Yes.
Whatever money I get, like from gigs and all the other things that I do, that's not my source. My source is God. And when I prioritize God over my finances,
Yeah.
He takes care of me. So that's the principle that I live by. And what
Yeah.
I've seen is, I've seen how God has shielded and sheltered my finances. Like, you do get people who are earning really well, but they always have outflows, right? Money going out.
Yeah.
And that disturbs what they're able to achieve. Because sometimes you're not you're not basically bad with your finances,
Yeah.
but you have a lot of expenses
Yeah.
that are just happening, or a lot of accidents that are just happening, right? But the Bible speaks about how God will rebuke the devourer. And I think in my life, I've seen God rebuking the devourer or rebuking things. Like, I plan and things go according to plan.
Yeah.
And you have to acknowledge that you can't be, it's not
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you like this supernatural person who
Yeah.
does this and this and that. So I've seen that. And even when it came to the video that I did on YouTube, as I was like testifying basically around the tithe, it's how my needs are always covered and my wants are always covered. Like,
Okay.
when I don't have money, people take me out and I don't have to pay for anything.
Yeah.
And I see that as, okay, this is also another level of provision where people become generous to me without me necessarily asking. And it's so random when I'm like, okay, we are almost there with the budget for going out and doing all these things, where someone will be like, hey, do you want to grab coffee? Do you want to do this? And I go there, when I go there, I have my own money in case they're not paying,
Yeah,
right? But they somehow volunteer to pay. Or like, with my business, I started recording now in studio, right? I
Okay.
need to pay on a monthly basis those guys that are recording and editing for me.
Yeah.
And I remember just like praying about it, because before I tithe and whatever, I like pray and whatever and talk to God around,
Yeah.
this is why I'm doing this. Because sometimes you can get into the rhythm of you doing something because it is part of your habit without necessarily like acknowledging what it means and what it does basically. So when I do have my conversations with God around, before my money comes in, this is the first line that goes out. It's my tithe. That's the first line. That's me acknowledging that everything else I know will be covered. And the 90% with God in my life has stretched way further than the 100%.
Yeah.
And today someone can come and say, but you can save this money, you can do whatever this money. But because I've lived and experienced God's provision and God's opening of doors into abundance, regardless of me tithing.
Yeah.
You can't convince me otherwise.
Oh,
Yeah.
drop the mic. Yeah, that was that was fine.
Okay, let's talk money. Since we're on
Yes.
money, I've done my tithes. I've given whatever.
Yeah.
I'm remaining with 20,000.
Okay.
That 20, can I buy a polo, or can I invest, or
I mean,
I
it
must get a
depends,
wife?
right? It depends, right? Because at the end of the day, someone who stays at home and have zero expenses, right? Say, for example, you live at home and they do everything, food, whatever. Your money that comes in is basically your money and maybe like transport to work and stuff. Someone like that, without all the other responsibilities, no debts, no whatever, they can actually take a part of the 20,000, save or invest, pay for their other expenses, buy a polo, and be comfortable. Mara, you with rent and groceries and all these other expenses, buying a car on a 20,000 salary might be stretching it. And like, you may need to sacrifice saving, you may need to sacrifice investing, you may need to sacrifice other things for you to have that car and try squeeze everything else into your budget.
Yeah.
So it depends. It becomes a question of it depends, which is why my budget won't necessarily fit someone else's budget, even though we're earning the same amount, because our circumstances are different.
Okay.
Like, my car is paid off, your car may not be paid off. So if we're talking about buying property or whatever, your budget for buying a property will be very different from my budget for buying a property, because on a month-to-month basis, I don't have the same expenses as you. But what becomes important when you're thinking about budgeting is, one, okay, the income is coming in, I need to pay myself first. That becomes very important.
Okay.
Saving, investing for your future self is very important. And then it also becomes, okay, what are the things that now I need to cover after paying myself first? What are the things that I need to cover? What are my needs? What are my wants? Okay, can I get cheaper deals on all these things that I have to cover? What can I afford? What can I actually not afford?
Yeah.
And then from there, it becomes a thing of, I need to now be diligent in following my budget. Because it doesn't matter, even if you have the prettiest budget, if you're not following it, it's not going to work for you.
True. So when it comes to like paying yourself first, what is the percentage that one should follow in order to pay themselves first?
Crazy enough, 10%, at least 10%.
10%,
Like,
okay.
bare minimum, if you are earning 20,000, 2,000 rands should go towards paying yourself first.
Okay,
That's the bare minimum.
So it's God, pay yourself first,
Yes.
savings, and then
Savings,
expenses.
and then expenses.
And then after that, you can spend whatever.
Yeah, you can basically spend on whatever you want to spend on, but of course within the limits of what you have,
Okay.
and what you're trying to do. For other people, that remaining money can go into something else.
Yeah.
Say I want to put down a deposit for something important, like an equipment that will help my business grow. Then like that money will then be directed towards that. So it also has to, your budget needs to speak to, what are your financial goals? What are you
Okay.
working towards?
Okay.
It has to speak to that as well.
Yeah.
Because, okay, cool, you can provide for your expenses and all of that, but your financial goals have to also be included, because where are you going to get the money to
Yeah.
achieve the goals that you have?
Okay. So let's talk about the process of how you basically bought your car. Did you save up money to buy your car, or did you do what most people do, which is installments?
Yeah, I did installments. I did kind of like a combination of both.
Okay.
So I had saved up money for a deposit, which was around 15% of the value of the car. And then I was using like a private banking account at the time.
Okay.
So with private banking, you get favorable rates if you buy a car or if you buy a property. Like with buying a car, you can get up to prime minus 1%.
Okay.
And then with also buying property, you can get prime minus 1%, right? So I spoke to my banker and I was like, hey, I'm looking to buy a car. And they were like, okay, do you know how much it is? Whatever. I'm like, yeah, sure. They were like, are you putting down a deposit? Are you going to make a balloon payment? Like opt for the balloon and stuff. I was like, no balloon. Just going to put down a deposit. And then they were like, okay, cool, sure. We're like,
Yeah.
we
Sure.
then went through the whole process. But after getting it, I paid it off in like 3.5 years because I was making extra repayments. And I think that's the one thing that people don't do as well. Because if you just leave it there, they charge you interest on whatever balance is outstanding. But if you're making extra repayment, if I make a 1,000 rands extra repayment, that knocks off my balance. And over time, that makes a difference in terms of how much total interest you end up paying.
Okay.
So if you are able to pay it sooner, then you save on interest. Although we don't feel it because you don't necessarily see the interest.
Yeah.
But if you look at your installment, they split it into interest and capital. So you start seeing how making extra repayments reduce your interest, and it reduces your interest and increases the capital repayment. For those who did financial mathematics would understand that the installment, the total is split between interest and like capital. So basically paying back the original amount that was owed. And at the beginning of a loan, majority, say if you're paying 6,000, 5.2 may be interest, and only 800 may be paying back the capital that you took out.
So I see that you mentioned 10% paying yourself first, protecting yourself. Have you read the book called The Richest Man in Babylon?
No, I haven't actually.
Wow, because everything you said is in that book.
Yeah.
Everything.
I mean, isn't it written by an American? I sometimes run away from reading American financial literacy books, specifically because the context is very different. I think when I read them, I want to get the principles and not necessarily some strategies that they use can't work for us.
Yeah, true.
Their interest rates are like 2%, 3%.
Yeah.
Here in South Africa, prime rate is around 10.5%.
Yeah.
So we're not going to look at debt the same way. Their debt is cheaper. Our debt is expensive.
Yeah.
Their financial system works on the basis of you need to have credit to be able to transact and do major transactions.
Yeah.
In South Africa, you actually, if you have too much credit, that prevents you from doing a lot of these transactions because they see you as risky and having a heavy reliance on debt. So I kind of like read them with a bit of a pinch of salt.
Okay.
Because he writes it in ancient times. So he's relating the ancient times to now.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
because it's like that 10%, pay yourself first.
Yes.
All of that is in the book.
It's in the book. Maybe I should read it.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe I should
Or
read
maybe
it.
you'll just maybe take a day because like, oh, I know this. Oh yeah, I've applied this. Okay, thank you. Bye.
And I think that's the interesting part, right? Because of how different writers basically communicate the same message.
Yes.
There are some things that I learn even now, like I love reading books. So there are things that I'm still learning about managing money that I'm like, oh, interesting. That's an interesting strategy. I want to try that and see.
Okay.
So there's always something to learn. I don't think I'll take a day, unless if it's like 75 pages.
Yeah, it's around 200.
200 pages. Probably take a week.
A week?
Yeah.
Why?
Why is it fast?
Why not? I work. I have a
Yeah,
business.
you
I
have a
have
business.
other
I
things.
understand.
I'm not just sitting around reading books.
No, there are those books that when you read, it's just right through. You can't put them down.
No, but for me, I've had those, but they have to be really, really worth it. But with financial books, I think it's important to take time to digest
Okay.
and work through stuff as you learn about them. You see, if it's a memo, yeah, sure, 3 days. Can get through that thing. But if it's like a financial book with practical, applicable principles and things, then I love reading and implementing as I go along.
Can you
I
share
don't
some of those
like
books with us?
Just reading randomly. Say, for example, in math, there's this book called In Math We Trust, right?
Okay.
It speaks about blockchain, how it started, speaks about like money, where money originated, cryptocurrency and stuff. And as I was reading it, I remember I had interest in Forex and I was like, let me try and see like how this thing goes. To also get an understanding of, I don't want to invest, of how it works, because I'm like, I don't want to invest in things that I don't understand.
Yeah.
And I mean it was very wordy, but it at least gave me an idea of, okay, this is crypto. These are the different, sort of Bitcoins that you can invest in. This is whatever that you can try out.
Yeah.
In terms of what I still don't understand to this day is basically what determines the price, because you do have swings a lot.
Yeah.
And those seem to be very volatile in terms of, you can't exactly pinpoint. It's more like it's driven by people mostly,
Yeah.
and comments that people make, rather than if we're looking at the price of goods, or if you're looking at a company, for example, you know that if they're in manufacturing and there are a lot of construction projects happening in South Africa,
Yeah.
they will do more projects, i.e. make more money, so that will be reflected in their share price. That's something I can understand.
Okay.
But you can't tell me that the value of something I'm investing in is dependent on someone like Elon Musk making a comment on Twitter,
Yeah.
and that determines whether my value drops or increase.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. And then I just ended up, I think I lost money. I think I had put down like 10, no, it wasn't 10 grand. 10 grand was for the shares. I'd put down like 2 grand, and I lost 500 and something. And then I just invested because I was like, I don't think this is going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are the things that you invest in?
What are the things that I invest in?
Yeah.
That's okay, on my own personal capacity, I love investing in like companies that are stable, blue chip companies basically.
Okay.
Sasol, your MTNs, those are companies that I love investing in because they're very stable.
Yeah.
Something can happen, like Sasol 2020 pandemic. I'll always forever tell of the story of a friend of mine who invested in Sasol, and they were able to pay for their wedding
Whoa.
using
Okay.
that money, because it dipped, but we knew the dip was not going to be forever. It
Yeah.
came back up. They just happened to have enough money to put in so that when it went up, they made profits, right?
Okay.
So there are those companies that are like relatively stable. They're like banks as well, your Standard Bank, your FNBs, your whatever. Those are like companies that you know, like they are
Yeah.
hardcore,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's the one part. And then I because of that, I'm like, okay, these are like my safe bets. And then when
Okay.
I want to kind of like explore a bit, then I'll try go into like your technology companies and stuff.
Okay.
These ones that are trying out things. Because now with AI and all these
True,
things,
true.
you kind of like are seeing where the tide is going. But I think what's difficult is actually saying, but which one? Which one will actually like make it towards the
Yeah.
end, which one will actually make me money? And that's
Yeah.
where you need skills, investment skills, to be able to identify companies that are undervalued, identify companies that have got potential. And
Yeah.
all of this is basically based on a hunch, past experiences. There's no exact science
Yeah.
to it, but for the stuff that I say I'm investing this for my children, I entrust that with proper asset management companies. Right now, all my investments sit with either Allen Gray
Okay.
or with Investec through the 91 company, which is now an independent investment company.
Okay.
So that's sort of where I put my money, and I'm quite comfortable with what they're doing. So it's a combination of, it's mainly shares, but like shares of different risk levels.
Okay.
So you kind of have the moderate or the medium risk, and then the high risk. I can take the risk because I'm still young,
Yeah.
and I know time will be playing in my favor over time. But I mean, when I get older, I'll probably move to the more
Yeah.
low risk
Yeah.
kind of investments, because I don't want to lose my money as I'm older. And then with Allen Gray, I mainly use that for money market. Like they have a really nice money market account.
Okay.
So I use that for short-term goals. Like I love traveling. So when I'm saving up to travel, that's where I put my money, knowing
Okay.
that I'll need this money in the next 12 months or so. But they also have options to invest in unit trusts and all the other things, share portfolios and stuff that you can sort of put your money in there. So for long term and like things that I know are like proper, I wouldn't put like, say for example, 500K on easy equities for me to trade that 500K. I feel like chances are I'll lose the money more than actually regain or like make profits from it.
Yeah.
Because I don't truly trust my investment skills to that level.
Okay.
But for things like 10K, 20K, I can put it in there, knowing that I can dabble around
Yeah.
and see how I can make a bit of profits from that.
Do you have any investments in property?
Yeah, I do. I'm
Okay.
actually, this morning I was actually looking at another property,
Yeah.
which is going to be my second. But I'm
Okay.
trying to build like a proper property portfolio.
Okay.
But I mean, it comes with its own downsides, right?
True,
Like it's amazing. Everybody talks about having properties, but for me, it
Passive
has to be
income,
worth it. And I think it makes more sense if your property is able to give you value day one. If you have to then chip in extra monies to cover up expenses and bond repayments and other things, then you may need to reconsider that. So yeah, I mean, property is a good investment, but I also feel like here's a bit of work. And secondly, yeah, you really need to have an eye for location. You need to have an eye for basically, yeah, location being the biggest one, but also an eye around, what kind of property would be more suitable for my portfolio. For example, like a lot of people go into residential properties, but there's commercial properties that can make you good returns if they're in the right locations. But I mean, that also comes with you having a lot of money to do that. So for such projects, sometimes as an individual, if you can't take them on, if you pool your funds with other people, then it becomes easier. But yeah, I mean, I hope I'll get more properties over time, definitely. But it's also something that I'm testing out. It's like I'm still testing out the market to kind of see what works, what doesn't work. How do you balance your returns and, your expenses? Because it is involved. You can't just say, I will have one property that I can't maintain, one property that I won't pay levies for in order for me to make profits. Yeah.
So since we're on the topic of investments, say I have 1,000 rand. I'm looking to invest. Where do I invest?
You see, when you start saying things like that, I feel like you're more the person who wants, this is the exact answer, right? That taps into, because that's the thing. It's like when someone comes to me and they're like, oh, create a budget for me for 25,000. I'm like, I can't just randomly download numbers and start putting them there. Same thing with investments. You come to me and you're like, I have 1,000 rands, but it depends, right? The answer is always it depends, because how long are you going to invest this thing for? What's your risk appetite? Also, like, risk appetite now, that gives us a measure in terms of what level of risk are you willing to actually take in you investing this money, right? Also, the purpose becomes really important, because different investment vehicles basically cater for different purposes. Like, if you are someone who wants to invest more long term, then property shares, that may be a good way to go, because you get protected from inflation and stuff, right? With property, it increases in value over time, but what property are you going to get for 1,000 rands, right? So then no-go area. Unless if you invest in property shares, which is basically investing in companies that deploy all these properties and own different properties and stuff. So that's also another way to gain exposure into that space. And then if you are going to be looking at more shorter term investment horizon, then things like your money markets become like good investments. Medium term, then we can look at things like bonds and stuff from 5 years, 3 years, whatever years that you're looking at. You can also start looking into unit trusts, right? So you buy units instead of shares from a basket that an investment company has. So you can start looking into things like that. If you are risk averse and you don't want taking risk, then things like your tax-free savings account become important. Exchange traded funds become important, because those are considered low risk. And then what other things? If you like are really crazy about risk, then you can start looking into crypto and all of that stuff.
So which platforms would you suggest for people to look into if they want to start investing?
That will be an endorsement. They're not paying me. But I mean, I think in South Africa, the famous ones, Broke Stock, there is Easy Equities, there is, what's the other one? I had Frank. Yeah, there's Frank as well. So you kind of have, options in terms of this is where, you start. So if you ever invest your money in these things and they chow your money, don't come for me and say you recommended this. You go in at your own risk. I think that's the thing with investments. Even if I tell you today that I invest in Sasol shares, you can go invest in Sasol shares and tomorrow you lose money because Sasol went down and say, but she said, no. So you should be able, I think with investments comes risk, and you should be able to stomach the risk. Yeah.
Do you have
anything?
No, I have nothing else.
Oh, you guys, okay, maybe it's my turn to ask you guys questions.
Okay.
No, feel free.
Why this podcast?
We don't have money.
Okay, interesting.
Well, the money that we want. Yeah, the money that we want. We
Okay.
don't want the small money. Well, everyone doesn't want the small money. So,
Okay.
yeah, we don't have the money. We're looking to grow
Okay.
as individuals,
Okay.
as businesses, as
Okay.
brands.
Yes.
So, personally, I want to learn from everyone who sits in the chair.
Oh, okay.
In the
From
chair.
How old are you guys?
marriage, from marriage to anything, life. I just
Okay.
want to learn.
Okay.
That's
So-
why.
How old are you?
How old?
am I?
Yeah.
I'm in my youth, so whatever they decide.
Okay,
is
I'm
fine.
21.
You 21.
I'm 22.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I would say in simple, we're basically looking to empower the youth out there,
Okay.
you know, and we don't just want to gatekeep whatever information that we're getting from our guests,
Yes.
but instead we want to
Share
give
it.
other people,
Okay.
the exposure as to, okay, guys, this is what we can, you know, this is what you can do
Okay.
with your finances.
And then
Yeah.
in terms of the vision, right? Where do you guys see yourself in the next 10 years with this podcast?
With this podcast, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, life is unpredictable.
Yeah.
Firstly,
Mm-hmm.
and then I wish and I pray that in the next 10 years, we look at this podcast as the number one, or rather even Africa. Let's talk Africa. I don't want to go to the world.
Okay.
The African diaspora for growth.
Okay. So you have vision for Africa
Yeah.
on the podcast. Amazing. And you?
In the next 10 years, honestly, I'm looking to impact a lot of young people, you know, and
How
I
many
feel like,
young people?
sure, a lot, millions, to be honest.
Okay.
I feel like since we are young, you know, we should be documenting whatever we're going through right now, so that other people that are gonna be going through what we're going through can actually see as to how, okay, these guys were able to make it. Yeah, so in the next 10 years, honestly, if I can have a target, maybe 10 million.
10 million.
Yeah, 10 million
Massive.
young people out there. We're targeting you. Yeah. Okay.
And remember to subscribe.
Yeah, remember to subscribe. This is our first episode, and please don't mind, Satatazela Nandan, but you know, more episodes to come. Okay.
Yeah.
More episodes to more episodes to come, and guys, please stay tuned for more episodes. We are here for you. Thank you.
Cheers.
Ciao.